how to get more clients or how to position your offers, things of that nature. So any questions that people might have regarding sales or marketing in general should be relevant for this. But yeah, in terms of my experience and biggest lessons that I've learned over the years, um, I'd say so. When I was first getting started, I didn't know anything. I personally am very introverted. It might not sound like that, on the calls when I speak with people. I'm quite conversational, but I don't really enjoy being in this environment, right? It's exhausting, it's tiresome, it's stressful. Sometimes I have anxiety, right? So if there are other people who are struggling with, you know, picking up the phone and just calling the right person, um, I learned how to overcome that by just removing the pressure off of it. And I feel like that's the first step you need to learn to be able to actually do the work, to get the practice in, and to be able to build up your skills as a salesperson. You need to learn how to just um, accept that it's just something that you're doing. And it doesn't matter if people say yes or no. It doesn't matter if they don't even answer the phone. What matters is just that you pick it up and you have a good time. And if you're not having fun while you're doing it, if you're not really relaxed and comfortable, that's going to come across in the conversation and you're going to have very poor performance. So being able to, just calm down, relax yourself, and get into it with a clear mind is probably the most important thing to be able to get any sort of results. And if you don't do that, it doesn't matter how much theory you know and how much you've practiced your sales script or whatever, you're not going to be able to do anything. And it always frustrated me, when I was hearing other people or when someone calls me, because I also get called a lot by salespeople, and they just read off a script like a robot. They have zero passion. They're not having any fun. They sound like they hate their job and it's the worst thing. That they have ever done in their life. So how am I supposed to respect them or enjoy that process and open up, yeah, and actually want to buy from them if they feel in the conversation like they don't even want to be there, right? So that's in my opinion the biggest, most important lesson. Other than that, doing things your own way is very important. So if you're forcing yourself to fake how you're selling or how you're holding a conversation, if you're fighting against your own personality, that's going to make it very, very difficult to do this in a sustained way. And the reason that's important is because the biggest predictor of success as a salesperson, as an entrepreneur in general who has to do sales to get clients and to grow their business, is consistency. So if you cannot actually stick with it and show up for the meeting and be in a good mindset every time, you're not going to be able to bring your A game and get the results. So it's very important to not be disingenuous with yourself, and it's very easy to burn out and overwhelm yourself if you're trying to do things in an unnatural way. And to give you an anecdote for this, so when I had that first sales job, the environment there was very Wolf of Wall Street. So we were selling stocks, right? And the people in charge were basically trying to emulate the Jordan Belfort methodology, right? Of just being hyper aggressive, building up passion, getting people excited, loud stuff. So they were basically telling us if they can hear us speaking over each other and understand what we're saying, that means we're not speaking loud enough. And we needed to be like 20 people just yelling over each other so that the other people, they could feel like we are on the trade floor in Wall Street, in New York, at the stock exchange, right? And that's the energy that they needed to feel so they would buy just from that energy, right? Rather than any rational argument or anything that we were doing. And that wasn't me, right? Like I'm an introverted person. I'm quiet. I like to listen more than to force people to do things. It's not about necessarily persuading someone in an aggressive manner. It's about letting them understand that this is the best path forward and just opening the door for them, right? For me personally. So the reason I was the only one who could close in that final month that I was there is because everyone else was doing that hyper aggressive, very forceful approach of selling, which worked for a while. But then, since everyone was doing it, the target audience they were reaching out to, they got saturated, they got accustomed to it, and they got jaded to this process, and were no longer receptive to even listening to anything. So even the best salespeople in the team, the organization, could not book any follow up meetings, any promising opportunities. Meanwhile, what I did was I would just ask them if they were busy, and they would say, "Yeah, call me later." And then the response that I should have is that I should insist and force them to have a conversation now. But what I did instead is like, "Hey, can I have your email address? It, I just want to send you something. I have some information that might be relevant for you. Is that okay?" La, la. So I would like downsell them on something that was an easier, quicker thing to do. And a lot of them would say, "Yeah, sure. Here's my email address." And then I would send them an email with a report of the opportunity, like a one-page sales letter. I didn't know what that was at a time because I didn't know copywriting yet. Um, but I prepared them beforehand. And then when I called them 3 days later and I said, "Hey, did you have a chance to read over the email that I sent you?" It's like, "Oh yeah, that was very interesting. And how can we take advantage of this opportunity?" And then I could have the opportunity on their terms. Usually, I would call them after hours. That's when I had the best success. So when they were out of office, at home, more relaxed, more calm, not in the high energy, aggressive state, but literally the opposite of that. And then I could have a much easier time actually take them through the sales process, educate them, listen to them, and get them to do the things that I wanted it to do. So the most success that I had in those last month and a half or so was at home in the weekend and after hours, not at the office. And at the office, I had to do the process that they were, ironing down into me, to, follow the rules, to train and practice how they wanted me to do it, and stick to the business ethos, right? And that was not getting results. It was giving me some chances, but when I saw, a very good prospect, that I knew that they would be a bit better, I would underline them and skip them, and then call them at the end of the day, right, at 6 p.m. as opposed to at 11. Yeah. So things like that. That if you can find ways to emulate or to adapt your process to ways that are more comfortable for you and more comfortable for your prospects as well, that's going to give you a much greater chance of success than trying to brute force the things that are not ideal. There you go. I'm having a bit of a connection ping issue. Can you see my video all right?
I mean, it sounds fine and there's no lag on this end. But yes, I think it's interesting with contacting them outside of the working hours. That's something that we see with outbound as well, because with outbound as well, if you reach out to them on the weekend or outside office hours, surprisingly, obviously it depends on the niche, but surprisingly, you get more responses, especially for higher level buyers. So people who are, when you're reaching out to enterprise and such, you get more responses outside of the working schedule, which I think is normal to a certain extent, because when you're busy, it's like even if you wanted to answer, you're like, okay, I'm going to answer later because I have to focus on something else
Mm-hmm.
now. So I think there's a lot of that that's going on, and I think that it's true pretty much across the board, and everyone should try that strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else that you'd like to share before we jump into the AMA? Um, I
I
think
mean, like to
that
share, I don't know.
uh,
Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, we'll get into the AMA, but I thought if you can tell the story maybe of the Byzantine vagina or these things, how you got, yeah, I think those
Yeah,
would be
make the
interesting with the
clickbait not
castle
clickbait.
owner.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure, sure. So I can tell a couple of stories. Let's do them chronologically. So first there was the castle thing. So after the job at the Wolf of Wall Street environment, I made some money. I had a pretty good success in that last month. Like I closed a really big client. Every day, basically, they would add like 10,000 more day after day because they had a limit on their credit card. So they just kept maxing out their credit card every single day. So that was exciting. Um, and I got a decent commission, and I used that money to get myself a new computer and to move out. So I moved out into the mountains here in the Carpathians, where the bears are crawling, and I'm fighting them apparently. Um, and
nice.
I was like, okay, what do I do? Right? I need to find something to do. And I started freelancing as a direct response copywriter. Was still doing my own entrepreneurial sort of journey where I was interviewing business people and trying to extract and figure out, problems that they're having and ways to solve them. I would sometimes sell them some affiliate offers that would be relevant solutions for their problems. I did actually get to a point where I got like 12 or so pre-sales for $300 a month for a solution, and I then tried to look for a developer and I couldn't find a developer that I liked. So then I didn't collect the money, but in any case, um that was like the main activity. And then I realized, okay, all of these people actually need copy, to be able to get the outcome that they want, because they mostly wanted, more clients, more sales, more people to stick around longer. So we would do campaigns for loyalty and things like that. And I was like, I can just write things and solve their problems like that. These people have no idea how to communicate. How come I know how to communicate better than them? What is this? advantage that I have. So then I studied a little bit. I already was somewhat aware about copywriting since I was, studying sales and marketing, and I realized that that was, one of the glue skills that you would need to be able to do everything. And then I tried to apply it to them, and it worked. So I wrote a few ads for the people that I was speaking with, mostly like gym owners and personal trainers and coaches and like various people like that because I was uh, much into fitness at that time and like weightlifting competitively. In any case, um, that gave me a deeper insight into like the sales psychology and what was needed to get people to take action and to buy, et cetera, et cetera. And then I was like, okay, I can actually do this in a more concrete way. So let me actually look for a job that would be like a marketing role where I can actually apply this in a more general sense for a proper business, an environment. I was also looking for like a community to make friends and meet people and stuff because I just moved into a new place. Didn't really, I knew a bunch of people here, like my neighbors, because I've been here a bunch of times in the past, but no, broader, rest of people in the town. So I was like, okay, what's the most interesting business in this geographical region? And the castle that you may have mentioned is like on top of a hill. It's kind of like Dracula's castle. They recorded or they filmed the show Wednesday there because it's like the best view in the entire valley that I'm in is from that location. Basically, you can see the mountain really nice. It's a very nice place. Anyway, so that was like the thing that caught my eye. I was like, okay, do these people need marketing? Let me check it out. Their website sucks. Their ads suck. They're trying to grow, but they're not getting enough traction. They don't know what they're doing. They have no idea. I can probably do it better than them. So I looked around and I found the email address of the CEO, who's like an Austrian dude. Um, Very traditional, very like face to face sort of salesperson. He also does real estate. He needs like flies people over. They have like a luxury restaurant that they invite people over and they have dinner with to talk about deals and stuff. Um, so I was like, hey, and I think there's an opportunity for me to help you. Here's what I know. Here's how I can help you. Here's the outcomes that you might be able to get from working with me. Let's meet. Actually, I didn't even say let's meet. I said, is this something that will be of use of you, for you? And one thing that I noticed is that 6 months prior, they had a job listing for like a marketing position, which they filled. So the job listing was closed. They hired someone. It's basically like a cold calling role for their bookings. So for weddings and renting basically the castle for various events. And I was not interested in that. But clearly they have some level of interest in marketing and in developing their business. So I leveraged that as well in the email, and I said, I've noticed that you were looking to hire 6 months ago, la la la. Here's how I can contribute to that and support that effort to make the investment worthwhile. And I basically then created a role for myself because it was not open anymore. And the guy basically replied, yeah, sure. Can you come over tonight at 9 p.m. for dinner? And I was like, sure, let's go. And then it was actually not. It was the next day at noon for lunch, and then after we met for lunch, then he invited me for dinner as well to also meet his wife because they made the decisions together. And she's technically the administrator of the location, and she manages like 60% of the stuff, and he manages 40% like the overall strategy. In any case, I met with them for lunch and dinner twice, and then on day three after the email, I went over to start working on their business and do their marketing stuff. So that was very interesting, very exciting. Um, yeah. Any particular questions about that experience? I'm not. There's a very. I can speak for 3 hours about this. So if we can like narrow down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the most interesting thing for me is which part did you find to be the hardest? Was it the initial connection or was it actually building the relationship after that?
Neither. I think the hardest part was managing my responsibilities because I was very new, so I didn't really know like what I was best at or what I was supposed to focus on and what priorities I should have versus what other people should manage. So I ended up just doing everything and I was wearing like 15 different hats and that was quite overwhelming. That was like the main difficulty with that entire process. Reaching out to the person, easiest thing ever. Like I just Googled them. I found like a press release from 3 years ago where they had like an email address and a phone number at the bottom. I just emailed them and they replied. Right. I just did it in an intuitive and natural way, but that was after I spent like 6 months writing sales letters by hand, right? After studying copywriting and understanding, what does it take to take someone to be interested in what you have to say and to want to pursue, a solution to their problems and to invest in that. So I framed basically my argument for them meeting with me or them being interested in me in a salesy way, in the sense of, hey, you have a problem. I know how to solve that problem. Do you want me to solve your problem? And then they just said yes. So that was very easy. Building rapport with them was also easy in the sense of I just treated them like regular people. I met for dinner. I had a conversation with them. They asked me questions. I asked them questions. It was a mutual sort of like I didn't treat it as a job interview. When I had that job interview at the previous, the Wolf of Wall Street job, that was literally my first interview ever, and I was super nervous. There was these typical corporate questions, and I was like sweating and didn't know how to answer anything. It was a disaster. I passed the interview. I guess they hired me, but they would hire anyone, right? It's a very high churn rate sort of industry. Like I joined with like 8 other people, and then after a month, I was the only one left.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah, it wasn't. It was very a difficult environment, and people didn't like that because it was very aggressive, high pressure, competitive. Right? I'm a very competitive person, so for me, the high pressure was enjoyable, just also exhausting. Right? In any case, in this example with the castle journey, um, I just behaved like a human being, and I was invited to dinner with someone, and I treated them like, my father's business partner or someone, like a family friend, right? And I just had a casual conversational interaction with them, where I wanted to learn more about it, and they wanted to learn more about me, and that was sufficient for them to, build trust, likability, and clearly they mostly hired local and from like the big city nearby, and 10, 12, 14 years ago in Romania, where this is, yeah, the fundamental level of marketing understanding and sales understanding and all of these things is like super super low. Okay, so my understanding after like let's say 2 years of studying and like 6 years of like proper dedicated practice was 6 months. I mean, did I say years? Anyway, um, much 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 greater than what you would normally get. Like someone that just finishes, an economics faculty or learns business and whatever management at university are not going to know any of the practical stuff. So I came in with a level of understanding that was basically at a level for the United States or for high level in the European Union. And these people, being actual business people with marketing understanding, with like 40 plus years of expertise and experience doing business, right? They could recognize that, hey, I'm a step ahead of everyone else that they've spoken with. So it's a very easy deal for them. And I used that opportunity because I knew they could not get this level of expertise anywhere physically around here. Impossible. So I could tell that immediately, and I used that as leverage to basically get whatever position I wanted, and as much flexibility as I wanted. So I knew for a fact that I am not going to work for a fixed schedule. Like I'm not going to show up at 9 a.m. and stay there until 5 p.m. That's not going to happen. I'm more nocturnal. I peak at now at like 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. That's when I get into action, right? And at the time, I was already working as a freelancer doing copy for like foreign business people, mostly in the United States. And I had meetings at like 2 a.m. So if I would normally, write my copy for my clients between like 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., there's no way I'm going to show up at 9 a.m. I'm sleeping, right? So first thing I negotiate is like, look, I'm going to come and help you out, but I'm going to come in as a business partner, as an equal, as whatever. I'm not going to be an employee. I have my own business. We're going to sign a contract. I'm a contractor, and I'm going to make my own schedule. And you're going to give me things to do, and I'm going to deliver on those things, and then we're going to figure things out. Yeah, and I negotiated for a flat retainer salary, and then anything else that I would do, like individual campaigns, assets that I would build, etc., would be quoted separately. So I had full flexibility on what I would do, and I would have, of course, the option to just say no to things. Although I was very bad at that, unfortunately. Um, and that was it. So I would say it was very easy to do these things because I knew exactly what I wanted. And if I wouldn't get what I wanted, I had the security already, right? Like I was already making sufficiently at that point from freelancing to say no to anything. And this was me basically just wanting to help out, wanting to contribute to the local economy, right? Wanting to meet new people and expand my network and maybe learn, from these more experienced people as well that are successful, right? So I was kind of looking more for like a playground plus a mentorship type of deal as opposed to a job with a career or whatever else. Yeah. So knowing that ahead of time meant, like as I mentioned at the start of this call, um, it was very low stakes. So there was no pressure. It was very comfortable, and I was just having a conversation with them, and it just made them feel comfortable too.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. I mean, that's very good. The one thing I'm curious here is how did it feel to go so high up from the very beginning? Because most people they would have been afraid to reach out to a castle owner, right? They would have much rather reached out to, let's say, the small winery or the whatever. Um, what would you say helped
Yeah.
you with that?
I mean, I didn't really think about that. It wasn't really a consideration. I just thought, okay, what's the best opportunity that I can seize in this
Nice.
location? So I
I
just
love
aimed
that.
for the best thing, and then if I miss that, then I aim for the next best thing, right? Um, and it just happened that it worked out on the first attempt with the best thing. Um,
Nice.
I would say,
Nice.
like more generally, there's probably some fundamental context there that allowed me to do this in the sense of I've been at a top level for like most of my youth. I used to be a professional gamer. I engaged with like the elite level in terms of business owners, club owners, team owners, whatever, and the sponsors themselves, event organizers. I've organized myself events at a high level and I've invited people. So I had some level of experience just reaching out to like the regional director of whatever company or the global manager for whatever brand. So I had those conversations one on one to them, and I never felt any sort of inferiority to them or fear that you know they might not take me seriously or whatever because they did. So I guess there's this post you had about confidence, and I sent you something about overconfidence, right? I've at that age I had like absolute confidence. There was no doubt in anything, right? I was maximum success in everything that I did to a very dumb degree, if I could put it that way. Like a raging bull, in a china shop. I just didn't care. Everything just collapsed around me. Um, so that's helpful to a certain extent, but it can also lead you astray, and you can make mistakes. Like if you jump off a building and the parachute doesn't open, that's a problem. But yeah,
Well, that's putting it mildly, but yes, I agree. So, what I think we'll do for the AMA is I think that I will read the questions. I think it's better than putting them on the screen. Um,
okay, sure.
Maybe I can even make the screen larger so that it's focused pretty much just on us. Let me just do that now. Um, I think that that's going to be better.
Yeah, and
Um,
very quick. So you also asked me about the icon with the other guy. So um, that was with my uncle. So my uncle has a business where he creates religious icons. He's one of the best in the country in terms of iconography, and he also restores churches and does cool stuff. Anyway, so this guy, he is a very religious person. The prospect that we're talking about, he shows up on TV, and in the background, whenever he takes an interview or whatever, he has icons on the wall. And my uncle has sold him an icon in the past. So you have omitted a little bit of context there that I can fill in the gaps in. So there was already some relationship. However, it wasn't a direct one-to-one relationship. Basically, what happened is my uncle had a bunch of icons at the airport, just in a store, and he walked by and he bought it. And a lot of football players. I'm not gonna give names, but this guy owns the football club. A lot of his players also bought icons from my uncle, so there was some level of connection there. So I was working with my uncle to help him sell more icons because he needed to sell more, and I'm like, I want to help him. And how can we do this in a strategic or effective way? Well, let's go to some past relationships that might have some, understanding of what you do, or they, for a fact that they appreciate the value that you create in the marketplace. And I created a very personalized letter exactly for that guy, a physical letter. Um, Basically, we know their psychological profile, we know how they think, we spoke exactly to their ego and what they care about, and then we gave them a little gift that incentivizes them to open the letter, yeah, and to actually read it. Because yeah, and if the gift is like very um extraordinary, to put it mildly. So, curiosity driving or attention grabbing, yeah, something that is not usual. That's a great way to become memorable. So even if they don't respond immediately, they're gonna remember that you're the crazy person that sent them the crazy thing, right? Um, and we know this guy. This wouldn't have worked with a priest. Yeah, that would be very offensive. They would be freaking out. But this guy, he is very he has a great sense of humor, I guess, is how I would put it. Um, he's very lax in terms of how he portrays himself, and we had the hypothesis that it would work with him. It worked. Yeah, he was interested, and then the rest is history. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I think that that's a pretty cool one. The My biggest takeaway from that is that you need to find a way to stand out and don't be afraid to be different, because a
Yes.
lot of people
Yes.
are they're just afraid of standing out. They're afraid of making noise, so to speak, and that just keeps them invisible. I also had in the run up to this AMA, I also had a post about that. Just don't be afraid to be loud, to take up space, and to share your value with the world. Because if you're afraid, right, nobody's actually going to see it. Especially in
Exactly.
today's world where there's so many messages swimming around that unless you're actually loud, unless you actually stand out, it's hard to be heard.
Yeah, and you have to realize these people are in demand and they are busy and they have better things to do. And if hundreds of people reach out to them and they all say the same thing, they all sell them things, you need to be like literally unique. You need to be one out of 1,000, not one out of 100. Ideally, one out of 1 billion. Yeah, so that the impact of them, seeing what you have to say is much greater than they would otherwise be. So that's what gets their attention. They need to feel an itch, and until they scratch that itch by speaking with you and confirming or denying their whatever feeling they got when they first noticed your outreach message or your approach, um, they shouldn't be comfortable, right? Like you should create that level of discomfort initially, either by posing a problem that they haven't solved yet, or making them a promise that is so extraordinary that nobody has made before. Is like, is that real, right? It doesn't have to be like super unbelievable because then the disbelief is going to work against you. But there is, um, a line that you can cross, or you can be like right at the edge of, depending on the person that you're speaking with, where you're going to have the maximum impact on them. So if you can identify where that point is, where the line is, and hit it really hard, that's going to pretty much guarantee success, in my opinion.
I agree to that, and I think that it's a very good point generally about outreach as well. It's like most people do very generic type of outreach, which is good for most types of prospects, but it's like everybody should still have the dream 100 list, the people you would really
Yep.
love to work with, and like for those people you can't be generic. Like put in the effort, as you said, be 1 in 1 billion. Remember the icon of the Byzantine vagina? That's certainly 1 in 1 billion. So stuff of that nature which stands out, it's going to help you massively, even if you do the same thing as other people do. um, this is just going to power everything up. Okay, let's jump into the AMA. I'm going to start in the order that the questions came in.
Yes. So
Both
AXA
people
is
who
first, I
asked
believe.
questions, yeah, both people are here. So AXA is here as well. If
Nice.
she wants to ask any follow ups, she can let us know. There's, I think, a button for you to put your hand up, um, show requests to be speaker, and obviously I can approve those, and you can come here and you can speak with us, or you can use the chat. Ioan and I will be checking both of them. But anyway, let's start with the first one, which is how to write the cover letter for Upwork. So Yuan, I know you've done some work on Upwork as
Yes.
well. So if you can lead with that, I don't know if it's necessary to share your screen or the best way to sort of walk people through that process, but feel free to do whatever is most natural to you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's basically how I started. So I did mention that I was already, quite successful freelancing before I got that castle job, etc. At that time, there was no Upwork. It was like Elance and freelancer.com, and there's a few other platforms. At some point, there was a fusion of two, and then they became Upwork. In any case, I used all of them, and the process is basically the same today as it was back then. Now, for a cover letter, in my opinion, stop thinking about it as a cover letter. That's like the first mistake. Um, so in a professional setting, a cover letter, it's like a formal document where you make like a proposal of why they should take you seriously. Okay. But in a freelancing platform, that's what most people do, and they do it very poorly. And you still need to stand out, and you need to do like that one in a thousand, one in a million, one in a billion sort of approach. And the way you can do that is by being very clear about what problems they actually have. And they're going to tell you all you need to know most of the time, not always, in their proposal, their whatever job listing that they have. So they're gonna use certain words speaking about their problem. They're gonna use certain words speaking about the outcomes that they're looking for and what they're getting. And you need to identify those words and basically say them back to them. You can say it in your own words. Ideally, if you can simplify it and synthesize the main idea of what they're trying to get and or what they're trying to solve, and put it in your own words, that's a great way to show that you understood what the job is. Most people don't do that and they fail by default. So if you need to start with this, if you don't acknowledge that you understood the problem, if you don't showcase, you prove that you know what they need, they're never going to take you seriously. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. The price is irrelevant. Nothing matters. Okay. Because there's 50 other people there. So they need to, in like the first 5 seconds of looking at your listing, your cover letter, your response to their request for help. Yeah, that's how I would put it. They're asking you for help, and you're like, hey, I can help. You need to prove that you can do that as soon as possible. So, first, start, prove that you can help them by saying back what you understood their problem is. You might get that wrong. You might lose a few jobs because of that, whatever. But do your best to compile the the actual problem, not necessarily the what they're saying that it is, but like the deeper underlying fundamental issue that leads to the thing that they're saying. Yeah, that's how I would think about it. Once you've done that, then you need to provide additional evidence that supports the argument that you can help solve that problem. Okay, and you need to um agitate a little bit why it's important to do it in the way that you're doing it. So you can look to put down a little bit the competition by saying, hey, here's why I'm special. Here's how I do it in a unique way that nobody else does it in. Here's how I've done it before for other people like you. Yeah. If you can do some snooping around, it's a bit more difficult now. Um, but you can get some ideas from like their name or the industry that they're in. There's like a company initials or whatever. There's some information available there, and you can probably be able to Google them and find their actual company. And then you can do a bit of research, and if you can add some of those personal details that are like broader and more interesting in your cover letter, that can set you apart from everyone else as well. It depends how much you want to invest in it, how many of these proposals you make, etc., etc. Um, Other than that, I don't think there's much else that you should be doing. Obviously, you can talk a little bit about the price. Like, if you have a very specific way that you can solve their problem, you can give them a direct proposal. Like, hey, I think we can do this with this type of project, and it's going to take this long, and you're going to get this outcome at the end. Like, basically, they're going to have a bunch of questions about how you can help them. And you can't really assume how much they already know or what they expect. So you want to set the expectations up front and clarify as many of those questions to be able to use them to build the certainty that they have about working with you. Yeah. So if they are certain that you are a good fit and they are certain that you can solve their problem and they are certain that it's a profitable investment for them to solve the problem with you at the price that you are asking for, then they would be stupid to say no. So they have to at least interview you to verify the information that you proposed, and that's it. Um, so if you cover these three main things, so acknowledge their problem, confirm that you understood it, and then provide evidence that you can solve it, that's everything that you need to do. How you do it specifically depends on what assets you have available, how much experience you have, the case studies that you have. If you have like proof of work, they generally want samples or whatever. But I got most of my clients, I would say, without samples. Like they would ask me for samples, and I would not give them samples, and I would tell them off, and I'd be like, dude, I don't have time to write you a personalized. Look, I have NDAs with these people. Whatever. Here's how I can help you. Let's have a chat. Okay, we can meet. I can show you things. I can show you exactly for you how I can do it for you because those don't exactly match your problem that you have right now. Blah 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 blah. Right? Like there's ways to get around it depending on what you have available. Now, if you have them already built, they don't hurt. Yeah, you can showcase things more efficiently. But don't overthink it. Just put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're trying to help. Figure out what help they need, and then try to emotionally convince them that you're a good person to do that job for them. That's it.
Makes sense. There's a follow
Um,
up here from Christian. Christian is asking, how do you
yeah.
approach jobs that don't state very clearly the problem, nor the company URL, um, and only mention the deliverables they need? Do you bother answering those, or do you have some other way?
Okay, so that's kind of a two-parter. Whether to answer those or not depends on how desperate you are for work. Yeah, I would say that client selection is the number one determinant of success. So if you're applying to shit listings with poor jobs and high competition and whatever, so like let me put it like this. You look at a listing. If you already see 75 people that have applied, just don't bother. Just skip over it. It's gonna be buried to the bottom. It's not worth your time. You're better off just doing something else. So like one of the first things that I did on these freelancer platforms, although it's a bit more difficult now because they removed API access, whatever, is I created an RSS feed that would notify me whenever the right job with the right keywords or filters or whatever got posted. So I would receive a notification, an email or whatever that gave me the job listing 5 minutes after it got posted. So I'd be one of the first like three people that applied to that job if it was the right job. And I would get, 10, 20 of those jobs a week, and that was enough. And I would get like three, four clients. It would take me 3 days to do a project like that. Some of them were longer, whatever. But most of them were like small scale, high volume jobs. And it's important to just be engaged with the platform. Now it's a bit more difficult because they want you to be on the platform, actually scrolling and applying as much as possible, but being a bit selective is very important in my opinion. And if you see someone that, hey, you don't get a good vibe about them, like they don't give you enough information to make a compelling argument about how you can help them, they're not clear about their problem, that probably means that they're actually not sure what they need. So it's going to be a bit more difficult for you to deliver effectively with them. So those tend to be bad clients that you're going to struggle to retain and to have good relationship with long term. So it's best to kind of avoid them. But if that's the best you can do, that's the best you can do. So you should still apply for some of those jobs. And in the cases where they're not very clear, you should not have a high degree of confidence, in my opinion. You should not be telling them what you should be doing or proposing them an actual solution. Instead, what you should be offering them is, hey, I know how to figure out what the solution for you is, but I need more information. Here's my expertise. Here's my hypothesis. Like, I have a few options. Let's meet and discuss so I can figure things out for you. And then you should sell them only after the meeting, after you do a bit of discovery with them to clarify what their project is. And I've done this a few times, mostly for like higher level consulting positions because they are like, okay, we need marketing strategy. Okay, bro, like that's a very broad thing. What exactly do you need, right? So we have to actually identify specifically, do you need a marketing strategy for your direct response pay-per-click ads, or do you need something for your content and inbound marketing? Do you need, like there's a lot of different refinements that you can make depending of course on what your job is, what you're selling. Yeah, some things are easier to clarify. Other things are harder. But try to, pass on the the responsibility of the sale, or like the pressure on them choosing you until after they meet you. So focus more of the argument on why they should meet you. Like, why are you interesting to them? Well, I have this expertise. I've done this for this other people that are similar like you. I got these results, and I might get them for you as well if it's a similar problem, but I'm not exactly sure what the problem is. Let's discuss to refine that better. So I'll give you like a free 30-minute consulting, yeah, to diagnose what your problem is so that we can, work together on a more clear pathway.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's pretty good. I think that Christian has an addition. He says that he uses Volna, that's Vollna, to get those kinds of notifications. He says email notifications are free, only Slack or Discord notifications are paid if anyone is interested. I think that's quite a pretty cool thing, and sort of like a replacement from for what you were using with the RSS feeds before they blocked them.
Okay, Aksa replied, and she said that she's doing everything like mimicking their tone, focusing on how she can solve their problems, and she didn't really get any responses. I will say 12 projects, like if you're just getting started, the chances are that the level of execution that you have in terms of, how good your writing is, how good you can, fit your solution to their problem, things of that nature, is not going to be at a top level. Like, you need actual repetitions, you need practice in to refine, by getting feedback and learning and doing things better over time. Now, I'm not saying you're not good. I don't know how good you are, but the likelihood that you're not good yet is quite high. So 12 applications is a very, very low number. When I was first getting started, it took me quite a while to get my first hits, and then I just kept doing the things that were working after that, and then iterating on those, getting a bit better. There's many reasons why they might not want, to start things off at that point. Um, it's hard to say why it didn't work this time. All I can say is just at this point, keep trying, keep looking to improve. Um, Stick with the things that you believe are good, and look for information around you that can help you do it better. And then once you get some successes, yeah, not just people who view our listing and don't respond, but the people who actually give you a job, um, then try to replicate that, like turn it from it just happening accidentally into something you do consistently over and over again. Now, there's also considerations about price and stuff like that. Um, you might want to be able, if you're just getting started, you don't have testimonials, reviews, you don't really have a good profile, that people can uh, trust at first glance, and they need to actually speak with you before they can get that level of trust to start working with you, is going to be a bit more difficult. So you might want to give them some incentive to interview you. It's like, hey, let's discuss. Maybe we can do this at a smaller price, or maybe mm, I can give you a free sample if you tell me more about your project, something like that. You can sneak these in. You do want to also look at the policy of the platform that you're using. Like, they might not allow you to do various things, but you can try this. And you can also try going off platform. So, as I mentioned, there might be ways to identify who the company is, who they are. Like, a lot of times, I didn't want to pay the commission for Upwork, and I would just email the people. It's like, hey, I noticed you have an Upwork listing that talks about this thing, and you want to work together and solve it. And that tend to get, you know, easier response, or I guess the same sort of responses, but off platform with more control for me, and I would have direct one-to-one relationship with a client as opposed to having an intermediary between. So whatever you're doing for Upwork, maybe you can find like similar sort of companies that have similar problems and try to reach out to them directly.
Okay, sounds good. I
Okay.
mean, AXA, if there is any follow ups on that, feel free to let us know. Let's go to the next one, which is related also from AXA, which is how do you come up with outreach DMs for LinkedIn? I'm trying to reach out for my services on LinkedIn, and my approach is research the ICP thoroughly, write a personalized DM where I'm giving them value, not selling them, but I'm not getting any responses. Do I have to play the volume game in LinkedIn reach out? How many DMs per day should I do?
Mm, okay. So again, a two-parter question. Um, I don't know why, but I like going from the back to the top. So LinkedIn is indeed a volume game. but the volume depends on many different factors. So ideally, if you want to get the best results, the greatest success, you want to max out your volume. So you should do like 30, 40, 50 perhaps. I don't know what the cap is for like the personal outreach. Reach outs per day. So that includes like connections and messages and whatever you're doing. Um, that would be ideal. So like per month, you want to do hundreds at least. Now, if you're doing 10 a week, that's okay. It's just going to be a bit slower to get the feedback that you're looking for and to, build up that network, get the right people to actually notice and respond, etc., etc. Um, so the more the merrier is what I would say for that. Now, in terms of how to write personalized approaches, we actually have what's called the LinkedIn playbook. Is it okay if I plug that to there?
Yeah, I mean it's free. You can
It is free.
definitely
So
provide a link
I'll
for
post
that.
it in here because that goes a lot more in depth than I can do in the time that I have here. And if you follow that, I'm sure you're going to get decent results via LinkedIn, both in terms of selecting the right people, personalizing your messaging, and also in terms of the overall attitude that you should have and the mindset you should have with personalization and messaging in general. So I'm going to go more into that so that's like more generally applicable because how you should personalize your DMs depends a lot on who you're speaking to. Um, so it's not really something that I can like give you the silver bullet answer to, but more generally, um, it's a similar approach to the cover letters, yeah, on Upwork. The only difference is that you're not sure that they have the problem. Yeah, like on Upwork, they post a job listing. They're clear that they want to solve it. Obviously, some people might be just testing the market to see what offers they get, and they're not actually serious. But most of them want to hire someone to solve their problem, right? On LinkedIn, you don't have the luxury of that information. You don't really know if they need you or not. So you need to it, I don't want to say guess or assume. You don't generally want to do that, but you want to reach out to the people that may or may have that problem, like in terms of a general audience. So you should know, right, that if someone is hiring, yeah, and they're a pretty big business, they probably need recruiting services, but they might already be working with a recruiter, right? So if you go very strong and you say, hey, I'm a recruiting agency and I'm going to help you recruiting this person. I saw that you're hiring, la la la. They're going to be like, I don't want to speak with you. Leave me alone, right? So instead, you should try to test for their problem. And the personalization should be more about, hey, here are some positive things I noticed about you. Here's how you can make them better. Or, hey, I've noticed this thing that might be holding your goals back because I noticed you have these goals and I'm aligned with your mission. I believe in what you're trying to do and I would like to help you, but I'm not sure if you're doing these things that would help you with that, right? Various things like that that can help test for whether they are interested or not without putting the pressure on them and saying, I can solve your problem right now. You can do it in the more aggressive way as well, but you're going to get a lot fewer responses. And that might feel a bit daunting if you're doing it manually. Like with a professional service that is doing outreach at scale and someone else is managing the conversations and you don't see all the not interested type responses, you can do it in a more aggressive way where it's just about the volume game. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. That's probably not ideal because you're going to miss the mark with the vast majority of people. Like 95% of people are not going to be interested ever. Yeah, and from the 5% of people, if you don't speak to them in the right way, if you don't, align yourself to their pain points right now, if it's not the right time, they're still not going to be interested, right? So to maximize those numbers a little bit and to not make it feel daunting and discouraging so you can actually do it consistently, going back to like the start of the conversation, consistency is the most important part. You just have to keep doing it. You have to keep putting the reps in, keep getting better over time at it, and your numbers are going to naturally improve just through repetition. Yeah. So in order to do it consistently, you need to get some positive feedback. So you need to put in some effort to select the right audience that you can help the most, that your profile is aligned with. So you want to have some level of profile optimization speaking to the people that you're trying to help, talking about how you've helped other people like them, things of that nature. And in the DMs as well, just, think about this like a networking event where you're just meeting someone for the first time. They don't know anything about you, and you're just reaching out to them. It's like, hey, I, I see you at this table, right? I noticed that you're working with this company. How interesting. Yeah, here's what I noticed more specifically that is interesting to me, and this is why you should be interested about me. Yeah, so usually if you show interest into them, they're going to reciprocate that and also be interested in you. And that can give you the opportunity to start a conversation and to understand that they do actually have a problem that you can solve. After that, it's much easier then to continue the conversation with your solution and pitching them. Anyway, there's a variety of options here. It's a very long conversation, so I'm just gonna finish typing this. Um,
Yeah, while you do that, Iwan, I will add that perhaps one of the most important things when you are DMing, and I mean, with Tanda, we've sent millions of DMs, millions of emails. One of the most important things is making sure that you have your goals right. Because sometimes the right goal is not signing clients. Like, how can you sign
yes,
clients if you don't know what they need, if you don't know what challenges they're having, if you don't know what language they use to speak with about that, and so on. So, one of the things we're trying to do at Tanda at the moment is to go after much bigger clients than we've worked with before. So the approach with those, it's not to start reaching out to them and sending them messages about selling them stuff, because it's like we don't know what to sell them to them, and we don't
yep,
know how to position our expertise and our skill set to sell to them. The approach is rather to get on calls and book meetings with them to learn about the problems that they're solving and the challenges that they're facing and the bottlenecks that they have in their business. Because unless we know that, it's like there's no way we can sell to these people. So outbound isn't just about selling. I think that that's sort of like a more limited mindset, and I would say that the most important
mm-hmm,
thing is to select the right goal for the stage that you're at. The right goal is obviously whatever actually helps you advance the business and move the business forward in the fastest way possible. I think you've added that in E1, right? Um,
added what?
the link.
Yes, I have. As a follow up to what you just said, that's actually very relevant to my experience. So when I first got started, I actually got started on LinkedIn. So my first few clients that I got as a freelancer was not through Upwork or those other platforms. I didn't even know they existed. So I was like, okay, how can I find business people that I can help? And I knew about LinkedIn, and I'm like, okay, business people, they probably hang out on LinkedIn. Let me find them. And I created a profile. I added like 300 random people that were in my industry that I was targeting, that were, the right people, like gym owners and fitness trainers and like the real estate developers that had gyms and people like that. And I just reached out to them. I sent like 30 or 60, 70 or so messages over a couple of weeks. And my approach, because I didn't know how I could help them, was, hey, I'm a student. Okay, like I was very, very upfront and very honest about it. It's like, I like what you're doing with whatever it is you're doing. I'm interested in fitness because that was the industry and whatever. Um, I would like to interview you for a few questions so I could learn more about this, and perhaps there's something we can do together. I can actually find like the actual outreach message that I had. It's very terrible. It was horrible because I had no idea what I was doing. But literally, if I go to my, because I still have the same account, my LinkedIn messages from 17 years ago. Uh, it's gonna take a while, but I'm gonna keep scrolling while I talk. I can actually give you the exact script that I used to get my first clients. So what happened is that I booked 7 or 8 interviews with actual business people. Like one of them is a private equity investor right now. There's worth like hundreds of millions. At the time, 17 years ago, was not that big, but he was on the right track and he knew what he was doing. And I met with them and I just asked them a bunch of questions and I try to figure out what problems they have had in their business. And you can do that right now and you don't know exactly how you can help them, but if you notice that they have a problem that is aligned with your existing solutions, you can say, oh, actually, I do this and that, and I actually did this for this other person. Here's the results that I got, and is this something that would be helpful for you? And then it's much more natural to transition to the sale without having to be very aggressive about it at first. um yeah, so my goal at the time was just to find opportunities and to find ideas for solutions that I could provide as opposed to trying to push that solution I already had to them. Okay, I,
Makes
I
sense.
found them.
Ah, great.
So uh, random guy Charlie. So hello Charlie, I added you as a connection because I am interested in interviewing people that work with sports and fitness about their troubles. My goal is to find out what the problems you are facing in your business are and then work on solving them. Like, this is very direct and very rudimentary and horrible. Holy. I hope you can spare some of your time. With all due respect, my name. Like very formal garbage. Okay? I don't recommend doing this exactly. But you can see, like, even this very not great outreach attempt, yeah, as a 19-year-old whatever, it worked. It got replies, it got people to book. I did change it a little bit over time. I didn't do like actual split tests. I didn't know what those are at the time. But yeah, so here I have an iteration. So I'm interested in interviewing people, parentheses, business owners, managers, etc. They work with sports, fitness, and nutrition. So I broadened my target audience at some point. I did try to like personalize a little bit to whatever they were interested in. So whatever. But yeah, so I said, here's what I want. Here's my goal. Do you have some time? Let me know. Right. And then some of them replied and they said, sure, book a time with my secretary or whatever. So yeah, the point is that if you're worried about how you should personalize things, what message to say, blah blah blah, it's not that important. What's important is actually going out there and doing it consistently. And over time, obviously, as you think about these things, it's good to have those questions, but it's up to you how to create your own path that actually works for the people that you're speaking with. Any advice that I would give or Tudor would give might be applicable. It would steer you in the right direction, but it wouldn't be the exact thing that would work for your people. In order to get you that answer realistically, we need to actually do some research into your target audience, come up with a strategy, create like 4 or 5 different approaches, test them out with sufficient data to get actual numbers that we can compare against each other, get some result, and only then we know, right? So we have some ideas, but the absolute certainty only comes with repetitions and data and just going out to the market and getting feedback from the people that you're speaking with. Okay.
Yeah,
Are you still there,
so
Tudo?
funnily
Yeah.
enough,
Okay.
sorry. Go on because I actually the sound went off on my end, so I can't hear what you're saying anymore at the moment, Yuan. I'm just trying to fix that.
Okay. I mean, I was done saying things.
Can you try speaking now?
Hello, hello.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Hello, hello. Yes, there
Yes.
is an event chat, but uh, whatever, it's fine. I think containing the responses and conversation regarding questions in their own threads is good because the threads are not going to disappear. Whilst the chat, I assume, for future AM.
Now it went off again. That's very strange. Huh. I think it has to do with Discord not seeing it.
The chat, or
Try again. Yeah, I mean, I can't. I think what I might need to do is call you on Slack so that I can hear you there, and then the recording is fine. But it's like,
okay, unfortunate.
Try speaking now.
Hello, hello. Um,
Okay, try now. Yes, now I can hear you. Okay, good. So I have no idea. It was just Discord. It was not connected to my earphones. So, but the audio is otherwise fine. Yeah, so I will read his first question. So, question one: if you're selling a high ticket SaaS with no case studies yet, how would you create trust and close leads confidently on the call?
understand their problem, or they don't believe that you understand their problem, they're never gonna hire you to do anything. If you cannot realistically solve the problem, they might hire you if you are, dishonest and you lie to them and you say that you can do it when you can't. Yeah, that's how politicians get a lot of votes and stuff, right? But it's not probably the right way of doing it. So because it's not going to lead to a solid foundation for a business that you can then scale up in the future, et cetera, et cetera. So what you want to do is you want to get on a call with these people. You want to do a proper discovery where you assess where they are at, what obstacles they have towards their goals, um, where do they actually want to go, how also you want to quantify the value of the problems that they're currently having. So how much are they losing by not getting to that goal in an efficient amount of time? Or how much are they spending right now to, you know, put down the fires that are burning up all the time when you can just, install a sprinkler system that does that automatically or whatever. Um, so I see in the rest of the questions that he's talking about also AI, and he has like an AI appointment
Yes,
setter
so
business.
as an update for the rest of the group, um, Mohammed basically he has an AI appointment setter that he's selling. So that's the product. And yeah, I guess the question is he doesn't yet have case studies with it. So what's the best way for him to actually generate those? I think that that's the main priority with the first
Yes,
question.
yes. So for the pre-selling part, okay, um, you don't have any case studies because you need to build the solution first. You need to get people to buy. So you need to get them to buy into the vision. They need to buy into the idea and the potential of the solution. So they are positioned not as uh, customers, but as investors or partners in this journey. So you want to talk to them as, hey, look, you have this problem. I can help you solve it, but you need to help me create the solution first. So in order to do that, you can be like a founding member of our project. You can be like a diamond partner, investor, whatever, and you get a lifetime membership and you get all the updates and you give them a bunch of benefits to incentivize them to get in early as opposed to waiting for however long until the solution is brought to market. Right? So you can say, look, we're going to give you access to the alpha version. We're going to create a minimum viable product specifically aligned to your needs. And then we're going to, over time, as you provide feedback, you're going to be part of this development process to refine the solution exactly to what you need so that it's most efficient to your particular case, use case, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to be a contributor to this, not just a buyer. And because you are contributing to this, of course, you're going to have a lifetime membership and blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be a better deal than if you were to wait until someone else does it. And if you do it like this, whether you have a solution or not, you just need to get their initial buy-in to the idea like, hey, look, if I could build something that is going to save you 80% of the time that you're spending on this particular problem that you just complained about, okay, would that be valuable for you? They're gonna say, yeah, of course. Yeah. And how much are you losing what, solving this problem right now? Well, I spend with 17 people $20 an hour, 8 hours a day, blah, blah, blah. There's some number there that you can come up with. It's like, okay, well, if I could create a solution that does this for you and you would just have to spend 2000 a month, would that be a better deal than, having all those people waste their time with it? Yeah, of course. Like, you want to create some disparity between the cost of their existing problem that they're not solving versus the potential upside of them solving the problem. So then, because they're entrepreneurs, if they're real entrepreneurs, yeah, they're going to be willing to take some risk. And if you're genuine about it, you gain their trust by, proving some level of expertise, you have some history, some background, you give them some guarantees or something, blah, blah, blah. They're going to be able to trust you enough to give you some advance. Yeah, and they're going to, here's $2,000, okay, as not in hand cash, but as a sort of pledge. Yeah, it's kind of like a crowd fund where, hey, once you have something you can give me, I'm gonna give you this $2,000. And it's like, okay, look, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna create a mock-up, or I'm gonna hire a developer, and I'm gonna show you how we can do this for you. Okay, and then you can negotiate at which stage they give you like the first installment, so you can actually hire the developer, and you can actually get their money before you write a single line of code. You don't have to do anything, just based on a mock-up and a promise and a contract that you're going to deliver on that promise. Once you get 10 people, yeah, that sign up, and you have sufficient funds to deliver the process. And if you don't manage to get the sufficient funds, you refund the money or whatever. Yeah, and that can also be used as an incentive for them to talk to their friends and refer you other people that have similar problems, maybe in other industries, like not necessarily competitors, but make it easier for you to get a pool of people willing to put down, $2,000 each for you to get enough of a budget to hire a developer to develop the solution. Now, if you already have a solution, great, just give them access to that. Be like, look, man, I need case studies. Use my solution for a week for free. Okay, after that, it's going to cost 200 a month, or 2,000 a month, or $20,000 a year, whatever contract you want to decide that works for them. And if you like it, if it's saving you time and resources and whatever, all I need for you for this special deal that I'm giving, yeah, because I need to develop the solution, make it better, blah, blah, blah. I need you to give me a testimonial or work together with me to create a more comprehensive case study that, we can then refine the solution and align it to your use case, to the problems, that you're currently having. And if we work together on this, it's a win-win situation for everyone. So basically, you want to manufacture, if you can, a win-win situation, regardless of what stage you are at, regardless of where they are at, and try to understand, what do they want? What do you want? How can you meet the two in a way that both of you get something out of it? And if it's profitable for them, it's enough to justify the risk for them to trust you and to invest in your project. It doesn't matter what stage you are in. Okay, I think that applies to everything.
That's
Um,
very good, and I
so
think that you've also answered the second question, because that's basically what's the best way in your view to grow the high ticket SaaS with no case studies. Would you give free access to beta testers, get case studies, and then sell high ticket, or what approach would you take? And I think that that sort of covers that.
yes, like you want to
Okay,
pre-sell, but give them a test or a mock-up or something that's they can feel, to give them confidence to put in that money down. Like you can't just ask them for money for nothing. That's like uh, it's just the dream. That's not enough. But you can create something, even if it's rudimentary. Like it doesn't have to be the real thing. It can be like, let's say you're meeting them face to face in person. You can literally write on a napkin with a pen. Here's how it looks. Here's what it's gonna do. Here's how much you're gonna save. Let's do some napkin math. Right? You're gonna make this amount of money or whatever, and that's enough, right? As long as it's realistic and they believe in it and you believe in it, you can do that. Um, there's also like a deeper part of it. So the question is, how would you create trust and close leads confidently on the call? So you need confidence to create trust. Yeah, you need to actually believe in the vision. But the way you believe in the vision is if they are the ones prescribing it, or so. Like if you ask them, hey, how would you make this happen? Like how would the ideal solution look like for you, for example? And they can describe, well, I wanted to do this and do that and do that. Yeah, and they give you some criteria that they prioritize, basically, that make that solution a good fit for them. And you say, okay, well, if I can create something that has these criteria, would that be worth this amount to you? It's like, yeah, it would be worth 10 times more because this is what it does for me, right? Um, and you get them in the state where it's a no-brainer for them to want it because they are the ones who told you what they want, right? Like you're just giving them things that they want. So the priority is just to um, steer their expectations towards something that is realistically accomplishable, like something that can actually be done, and you can guide them to that. Say, well, okay, here's how it works. Here's what we try with these other people. Is that something that would work in your business? And they say, oh, well, no, that doesn't quite work because of these reasons. Oh, well, we could actually do this to, align in more with that particular thing. And you can little by little in the conversation refine the solution towards their exact use case, and then once it clicks and it's like, yeah, that's the perfect thing, then you also believe it's a perfect thing because you know how to build it. Or even if you don't know how to build it, you know a guy who is a web developer or software developer with like 20 years of experience that has done something similar, and they're going to figure it out, right? And even if they can't figure it out, it doesn't matter. What you are promising is that you're going to go find a person or try to find a person that can do that. So what you're initially getting their buy-in for is just the effort of trying to solve their problem, not exactly solving their problem. Once you have that buy in and you can confirm that the solution is realizable and you deliver an initial minimum viable product, something that actually works, then you can say, hey, is this aligned with what you were expecting initially? And it's probably not going to be, but that's okay because you're not selling them the end product yet. You're selling them the journey, the dream that they're going to get to that point eventually and save a ton of money. So you ease them into the process. And because of that, you can have like a lower degree of trust from them and less confidence than you otherwise would need for like a finished product, in my opinion. So as long as you believe that it can be done eventually, and you can, sell that dream, that's enough. And I think that anyone can do that because otherwise, why would you be wasting your time with it, right?
Makes sense. And I mean, I think that that answers the third question as well, which is like, what can I do if I'm sort of uncertain? I think that Yuan is right about that. If you're like uncertain about it, the best way is to get feedback from them and then take their feedback on board, make them part of the process. If you can make them to become part of the process along with you, then they will support it financially. They will understand that
Yes.
obviously that's necessary so long as the solution has a future with them, right? And
Yes.
they
Because
get the
it's not your
advantage.
solution, it's their solution.
Exactly. It not only that, that's what I was going to add. It's going to be exactly as they want it to be, right? Which is like a huge advantage, right? Like it's you're basically going to get a custom built software, but for a monthly subscription, right? Like that's
Yeah.
you would be a fool to say no to that. Next question is for a platform like ours that automates
Okay.
appointment
Wait.
booking
So
from
the third
existing leads.
question.
What kind of offer, framing, or guarantee creates the strongest buying desire?
Okay, I can answer that first, but I think we haven't actually answered the third question because it's a bit more. It's different than what you said. It's
Oh,
regarding
okay.
the prospects having uncertainty, specifically about AI, and I think that's quite relevant. But
Okay. Let's answer that one first, and then we come back. We come to the other one.
I'm also looking at the fourth one. They kind of tie in together. Like, all of these questions kind of tie in together because like
They
the
do.
actual problems that the business has, right? So okay, let's go with number three. So how can I close prospects better if they're unsure and uncertain about an AI taking over parts of their sales process? So they think an AI won't sound like their sales reps, they won't be on brand, or it's too early to do that, or whatever. So basically, um, the issue that I'm getting here is that people just don't trust you. So I guess the reason you thought I kind of answered this is we talked about how to raise the trust. I will say that it's a bit different there. So there's the uncertainty itself is regarding the unknown. So by giving them a taste of it, you can just eliminate all of that uncertainty because it's no longer unknown. They're not actually afraid of AI. They're not really afraid of things not sounding on brand or whatever. They're just not sure what it's going to be like, right? So just give them a taste. So let's say you're doing AI appointment setting. Okay, so I can give you an example of how we do outreach that kind of leverages AI, and we have some level of AI, and we have people that have this objection where like, well, if you use AI in my messaging, what if it sounds weird? It's like, okay, well, we reached out to you with AI and you responded to our email and we're on this call right now. Did you notice that it was AI? It's like, oh no, actually I didn't. Okay, did you think it sounded weird? No, actually it was very good. That's why I came on this call. And that completely dispels that entire unknown because they went through it and they didn't notice that it was AI. Right? So it was on brand for us. It was effective. It was because they just responded to it. So if it works for them, it should work for their prospects. But then you can take it a step further. So that's like the first stage. You say, well, you went through this process. That's why you're on this call because I booked you with AI and you didn't notice. And then step two is like, but I can give you a sample. Look, let's actually quickly train an AI. Give me like a few days. I'm gonna create a personalized AI for you, and I'm gonna give you access to 10 calls for free. Okay, where you can listen to the call. Here's a sample of something we did for a similar client. For example, you can do that live or
His
showcase like a
doesn't,
demo of your
just
solution.
a second, you answer. His is about
Yeah.
the AI just does the messaging. So it's like you give it a list of leads that have ghosted, and the AI sort of takes over and does the messaging to book them. It's not like it speaks to them
Okay.
on
All
a
right. I mean,
call.
that's
Yeah.
even easier. You can just show them conversations. You can probably do it quite quick. But this actually applies to like voice appointment setters too. Like I was thinking, they would get an inquiry or something, and then the AI appointment server would call them, and they would schedule a meeting. They would have a conversation with them or whatever. In any case, whether it's text or voice or whatever, the point is that you can show how that experience looks like. And are you worried that it doesn't sound on brand? Well, let's listen to it. Lord, let's read what it says. Let me go through it, input whatever, pretend that you're the customer and try and buy your product or try to book a meeting. And they're gonna say something. They're gonna get a response like, "Oh my god, this is so great." Yeah, like once they see how it works, the actual source of their lack of trust doesn't exist anymore, which is them not knowing. Yeah, because now they see it, they know it, right? So that's how I would do it. Now, if it's expensive for you to do this, right? Maybe you want to minimize that. Maybe you want to keep it for like some process. Maybe you want to create like a recording of a demo for someone else, like that's generally applicable to them. But ideally, you would give them like a trial with, hey, just do a few and see how it works. Um, you can account for that into the cost of acquisition. So you know how much a client on average is going to spend with your solution, with your business, and you can probably assess, some percentage of the people who take this trial are going to upgrade to a full account and they're going to spend this much. So you can then test, okay, if I don't do the trial versus if I do the trial, how much more do I generate in terms of revenue? And if it's a profitable deal for you to do it, then obviously you can do it with a trial. But I would say if it's unclear, if you're not trusting in this yourself, the best way to do it is to try it and test it and get actual data, and then right? You shouldn't be doing things blindly and guessing what the right answer is. You should have hypotheses and then test them and then know for sure what the right answer is.
That's
Okay,
good.
and question four.
Yeah.
So,
Question four was for
um,
a platform like ours that automates appointment booking, what kind of offer framing or guarantee creates the strongest buying desire?
okay, so I think this is a good question, but is the wrong kind of question. Um, so i- it's not for a platform like ours. What you should be asking is for the people that we're selling to. So, who are you selling to? So, basically, the offer framing and the guarantee that builds the strongest buying desire is the thing that is the best fit to what the prospect wants. Okay, if you don't know who you're speaking with and what they want, you have no idea how to create the biggest buying desire or how to give them the best risk reversal and gain most of their trust. Like it's like putting the horse in front of or the cart in front of the horse. It's not exactly the right order of things, but I'll do my best to try to from my experience with people that, hey, who would be buying these type of automation systems, right? What generally do they want? So I think in terms of an offer framing, as I said before, just giving them a taste because it's something new, it's like a new technology, and they're probably worried that it might affect their brand's reputation, right? So it's not a human being doing it. What if it does things wrong? What if it's messing things up, right? So by structuring an offer like, hey, try it for a little bit, and then it's going to be somehow cheaper than what you're already paying. So you want to relate it to their existing costs. So if they're paying for an appointment setter already, or they have a commission that they're paying for someone based on the number of meetings that they book or whatever. Try to assess how are they doing it now? How do they want to do it ideally? And frame it in a way that is like that, but better, right? Once you have a sense for the people that you generally speak with and work with and what they mostly want, then you can try different things and iterate on that. um, but in a general sense, it's hard to say exactly what to try. As for a guarantee, same. Basically, it depends on who you're speaking with. Like some people want, they want their money back if they don't close this amount of meetings. Some people don't care about that. They don't want their money back. They just want to know for sure that they have control over the process and it's going to be live, and there's other types of KPIs that they care about. So if, for example, what they care about is like time to response, and you guarantee that, hey, my appointment setting system is going to respond to people in 1 minute or less, yeah, that's your guarantee. It's going to be technically sound. It's going to replicate your voice effectively. It's going to deliver consistently. Blah blah blah. Like you don't have to guarantee them necessarily monetarily or performance wise, but maybe that's what is most compelling and generates the strongest buying desire, right? So I don't know what's going to generate the strongest buying desire. It depends on their priorities and what they care about and how you can position your solution in a way that matches those desires, right? I think
Yeah.
it's kind of a cop out answer. I apologize, but that's the reality of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that the best, I mean, I agree that the best way to approach it is to start with the bigger problems upstream, which is discovery and basically talking to the right people, and building the right product. So that leads us nicely actually into question five. How can I build a high value for an AI appointment setter with prospects that compare it to a $20 ChatGPT subscription? I usually show how much a human setter can cost to train
Okay.
higher and the revenue AI can bring them versus human setters, but curious how you would approach it.
Yeah, so that approach is sound. Yeah, you generally want to do that in the discovery process as part of the things that you do. It's not the only thing you should be doing, but it's like a way to gather information, ammo that can help you position your offer in a better way. Um, if they are comparing you to some other category, yeah, like a $20 ChatGPT subscription is not the same thing. You're not ChatGPT. You might not even use ChatGPT. You're giving them like a customized service that does a particular solution for a particular use case, right? So what they're buying really is your expertise and the application that is personalized to their particular case. Um, if they want to do that with ChatGPT, great, they can do that. They just need to hire a prompt engineer and have someone to build that solution, for them. Something that you've built, yeah, and took you this long, and you invested this amount, right, to be able to build that solution that can be applicable to them. Um, so they might ask you, okay, why can't I just hire someone from Fiverr for $5 an hour to do this for me? Well, because I do it faster, better, whatever advantages you have that differentiate you from the alternatives. So ideally, what you want to do is you want to outline all of the potential alternatives that the client would have. So one of them would also be like not doing anything about it. You want to talk about that. One of them would be hiring a freelancer that is low cost, that is offsourced in India or whatever. One of them would be hiring a high level consultant that is more expensive than your solution. One of them would be building their own inbound system, like in house, where they can manage the people face to face or whatever. Anyway, all of these different things that they could potentially do that are, um, I wouldn't say in conflict, but competing with what you're trying to do, have pros and cons to them. So you want to outline the cons mostly and outline your pros that overcome those cons, and then say, hey, my thing is better because of X, Y, and Z, right? Um, Now, specifically for an AI appointment setter, um, I think time to response, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the big ones. So the issue with like human appointment setters is that they are quite unreliable, so to say. Like there's fluctuations in their performance, there's fluctuations in their ability to respond on time. There are ways to get around that, but you need to have a sufficiently large team that can compete with each other. So if they don't have the resources to hire 5 people for appointment setting, they can't get the benefits of a well structured organization. And the AI can answer it at any hour, 24 hours a day, with the same level of quality and consistency, right? Like all of these benefits that are obvious for AI, and they can probably do it cheaper. Like you can probably generate a response with like 5 cents per message, right? So if you charge them, $1 a message, that might be pretty good, right? Compared to a human being that can take, in an hour they pay $20, they can only do like 10 messages or something. I don't know. That's half the cost. Whatever. You can do the comparisons. Um, but I think the bigger value gain here is not necessarily about the monetary part because the margins are quite small for this type. It's more about the stress and the unreliability. So the uncertainty that they, are you already dispelled for AI in general. You can also reintroduce back for hiring. So okay, but what if you hire the wrong appointment setter and then they go rogue and then they're hard to manage and then they say the wrong things? Like the things that they're worried about with AI, they should be worried about with human beings as well, only they don't have the control. You can't, beat someone up so they say the right things. You can't, lock them up so they work 24 hours a day. Everything that you can do with AI that is good, that's why AI is in demand, is things that you can't do with human beings. So try to point those out and relate them to a way that applies to their personal life and their personal comfort. It's like, well, you don't have to worry about, what if the appointment setter asks for a raise? I can promise you that we can sign a contract for 5 years and I'm not going to raise your prices ever because we have like a proprietary model. We don't rely on OpenAI or ChatGPT or whatever. And if they raise their prices, who cares? Yeah, I can guarantee you that as long as you have a server and we plug in our AI system to your server or you rent out a server with us or whatever, we're going to keep the same price for 5 years. How does that sound? Is that, a consistent, predictable thing for your business that will be valuable? Yeah, of course. So there's a lot of different, areas that you can go into depending on what they want. If you don't know what they want and what they prioritize, it's hard to, talk about these things, in my opinion. So yeah, first of all,
Makes
be very,
sense.
very clear about their desires and then position the advantages that you have aligned with those desires. That's how you maximize the value, the perceived value. It's not actually the real value that matters. Like how much they spend and how much you do, the work that you do, is less important than how much they believe this will benefit their business. Because even if you can generate them $60 million a year, if they believe it's worthless, they're not going to pay you a single dollar, right? So it's about the belief that they have in your solution as opposed to the real actual work and value that you create physically in the marketplace. Okay,
I
I'm
would
done with that.
also add, Yuan, that to me it feels that Mohammed is not actually implementing his positioning because his positioning is to compare it, the alternative that he has in his positioning is to a human AI appointment setter. But the people he's pitching to, they're not comparing him to that. So he's pitching to the wrong people. That's not the target audience. The target audience is somebody who already has 20 human appointment setters. So he's not going to compare it to ChatGPT, right? Which is what he already has. He's going to compare it to the 20 appointment setters that he already has. Um, so it's as simple as that. If you're not going to speak with the right people, you're not actually implementing your positioning. You're implementing something else. And you're talking to the wrong clients. And it goes back to what Iwan said at the start, which is that client selection is probably the most important thing. It's the same thing here. You're not selecting for the right
Yeah,
clients. These are not people who want to replace human appointment setters because they don't have any. They're people probably who have a database of leads that nobody's taking care of, and they're comparing you to ChatGPT because that's the closest alternative. But they're not your real target audience. So if you want to actually test this positioning, you actually have to speak with people who are employing 10 plus probably human appointment setters. And for them, it would make sense. Look, you're going to replace some human appointment setters, maybe not all of them, but you're probably going to reduce from, let's say, 10 human appointment setters to five, how much you're going to save from that, right? Like that's where the conversation makes sense. If you go to people who just have a database and they have no appointment setter, you're not testing the same positioning.
yeah. You do also want to be careful with that in the sense of they might not want to replace their appointment setters, and what they're actually looking, their desire is something else. Like what they want is to increase their revenue and their profit margins. So, of course, cost cutting is a way to increase your profit margins. But what if you can improve the efficiency of their existing appointment setting team? So instead of replacing them, you like reallocate their attention and their resources towards higher value activities. So instead of doing the boring work for the appointment setting, they can then take the people that are already filtered by your appointment AI appointment setter and then do more client nurturing or whatever. You can help them reframe the resources they already have allocated without putting them in an uncomfortable position where they have to make a difficult decision. Like they shouldn't be choosing between what they already have and you. Your alternative should be separate from all of that. You should be completely differentiated and unique from whatever it is they're already doing. Oh, you're spending $20,000 a month on human appointment centers. Awesome. Spend 2,000 a month more with me, and you're gonna get 5 times more value out of it because of X, Y, and Z, right? They shouldn't. It should be an augment to their existing decision, because if you put yourself in contradiction to their existing decision, you're basically telling them, "Bro, you're stupid. You made a mistake. I can fix that mistake for you, but you got to pay me some money." And that makes it in a way where you're kind of their enemy, right? Like you're not actually their friend and helping them out. You're it's a bit of an uncomfortable, yeah, dynamic there. So try to look in a way where you can level them up, like plus one the 100% thing that they're already doing, as opposed to shaving down 10% from the top and then putting a new 10% in.
That's very good. Yeah, so I mean, unless there are any other follow-ups, I think we've gone through all of the questions. Any closing thoughts, you want? Anything that you would like to share at the end?
Mm,
Or any other way for people to reach out to you? Anything that you have that you'd like to promote personally, stuff of that nature? Feel free to bring it up.
sure, I'm available on LinkedIn. I also do this thing called action smithing, which I'm not very focused on at the moment, but it's very useful if you are looking to drive people to act more, including yourself. So it's about persuasion, about human psychology, and about performance generally. So if you have questions about that, also sales, marketing, etc., etc., if you're trying, of course, to sell more, to position yourself better, just reach out, ask a question, we can see what we can do for you. Um, and yeah, in terms of final thoughts and something that will be generally helpful, just keep doing it. So the thing about sales and marketing and entrepreneurship in general, it, it's just a matter of investment and consistent compounding gains that you're going to get over time. Like all these different efforts that you're putting in, the little things, whether they work or not, they are experience that you're gaining, which later on, 10 years from now, they're going to be relevant and they're going to help you, get to the next level or capitalize on an opportunity that comes along that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. So just keep trying, keep refining your method, keep learning, keep applying, and there's no way you can fail. Like every failure is just like a temporary setback as long as you get up and you keep going. Those are my final thoughts.
Nice. I mean, I love that message and I agree full heartedly with it. And I mean, I went through that same experience myself. I think it's one of the most valuable things if you can start to understand that
Yep.
all the experiences that you go through actually build up your story. And I always say this, but you want to turn all those experiences into a story that puts you as the winner. There's always a way in life to see whatever happened to you, and you can see this even from people who went through huge tragedies, losing their families, and so on. Some of those people go on to say, that was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. And I think that the strength that can come out of that, by integrating basically the bad experiences, the losses, the failures into your life to make you into who you are today, I think that that's a very powerful thing that a lot of people can take away from this. So yeah, thank you to everyone. Thank you, Yuan, for joining and for participating. And yes, if there's any
Thank you for
follow-up
inviting me.
questions, feel free to ask them in the Discord. Both myself and Yuan are going to be there. Obviously, as soon as the recording is ready, we will also be sharing that. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.